Earlier this year, our 11 Investigates team did a series of stories on the 1980 murder of Sister Margaret-Ann Paul.
Now, a former cold case investigator says records seized from the Catholic diocese show the church paid $10,000 towards Father Gerald Robinson's legal defense, despite public claims that Robinson's attorney was working for free.
Yeah, that allegation now before Toledo's Board of Honor as it considers on Thursday whether to recommend removing a sign honoring Monsignor Jerome Schmidt.
Lead investigator Brian Duggar has the update.
Sister Margaret-Ann Paul was murdered in 1980. Father Gerald Robinson was convicted in 2006. Now, key figures in the case write in letters that 11 Investigates has reviewed that the Catholic Church helped hinder the original investigation and that Monsignor Jerome Schmidt was at the center of it all.
The investigator, Tom Ross, wrote, identifying that $10,000 was paid back in 1980 towards Father Robinson's defense by the Toledo Catholic Diocese really adds a layer of context to the collusion and the effort that was going on in 1980 to bury this case then.
Tom Ross was a Toledo police officer in 1980 and later worked on the cold case team. He wrote that investigators found a $10,000 receipt from 1980 while searching diocese records. That receipt was for the defense of Father Robinson, and it contradicts public statements from the church. He also wrote that Schmidt Deputy Chief Ray Vetter and attorney Henry Herschel interrupted Robinson's interrogation, effectively ending the investigation. Claudia Versalati of SNAP has been arguing for years that the church and Schmidt helped protect Robinson.
His role as a Monsignor put him uniquely in that position. He was the get-it-done priest. If the diocese needed money raised, he was the person to get it done. If they needed something accomplished, he was the person to go do it.
The Board of Honor is not deciding Robinson's guilt.
Find the defendant guilty of murder.
He was convicted in 2006. It is deciding whether to recommend removing Schmidt's honorary sign from outside Fifth Third Field. If they agree, council will then decide what to do with that sign. Lucas County prosecutor Julia Bates also sent a letter. She wrote that Robinson's personnel file was ultimately secured after 2 search warrants. She agreed Monsignor Schmidt's interruption of the interview ended the 1980 investigation.
I want that review board to focus on is what happened when the doors opened. You can argue he was brought in to help, but the case was closed when the doors opened. And yet they had recovered the murder weapon the night before, and they had already interrogated him, and they had the evidence, and ultimately he was convicted in 2006. There's a very clear roadmap for righting this wrong.
Journalist and author David Yonke also sent a letter. He was even more definitive that the church and Schmidt helped end the investigation. The sign was dedicated in 2002 on the anniversary of Sister Margaret-Ann's murder. Her family and advocates have fought for more than 20 years to have it removed.
The Paul family has been nothing but gracious and operated with civility and walked down every rabbit hole necessary, both in the public and private sector, trying to get that sign down, but to no avail, and it's offensive to crime victims because who we honor matters. It emboldens wrong behavior and it normalizes horrific behavior, and we're talking about the cover-up of a murder.
So late this afternoon, a church spokesman responded to the Ross allegation, saying the church had reviewed Robinson's file and no such receipt existed. However, during our investigation, we were told by investigators that almost no records exist involving Robinson from those early days, police records or church records. Now you can read these letters at WTUL.com. Reporting in studio, I'm Brian Duggar for 11 Investigates.